Hi, Ibou. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you here on Radio Pikine Diaspora with like African Diaspora Radio, and then our show is called Jaja Artist, means like the journey of an artist.
Okay. I'm very happy to participate on your program.
Thank you very much, Toni. Toni, will you please introduce yourself to our listeners before we go any further?
Okay.
I know you are an artist, you are an educator, you are a gallerist, and you are so many other things that I don't know.
Well, you're right. I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. I do visual art. I'm a painter primarily, working in the medium with paint, but I also do fiber arts, and I combine fiber with the painting. I'm a mom. I have two sons. I'm an educator. I teach art. I'm teaching in Newark at Arts High School. And I also write, too. So I'm a fictional writer. And I think that's about it.
And you are a gallerist. You also are running a gallery called like Yama Gallery, right?
Yama Gallery, yes. I turned myself into a business, and as a result of the business, it was started as for-profit, and then over time, I decided to make it non-profit, and as a result, I opened a gallery called Yama Gallery.
Okay, now let's talk about art. How long have you been an artist, or how long have you been painting?
Well, I've been practicing most of my life. I mean, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Wayne State University in the mid-'70s, and I've been working in art ever since, studying art and, practicing art. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I moved to New York area in the 1980s, and since then I have been, promoting and working as a fine artist.
You as an artist in Detroit, can you tell us a little bit about that life, please?
Well, I loved growing up in Detroit because at the time that I grew up, Detroit was the fifth largest city in the country. So the auto industry was still doing well. We had a lot of cultural institutions, very strong, a strong investment in the arts. The Detroit Institute of Art, the major museum in the city, was my favorite place. And I went to a high school that was located near the museum in the downtown area. So my favorite places from school was to go to the library, and then right across the street from our main library was the Detroit Institute of Art, which has a renowned art collection. And I would go there and sit in the Diego Rivera Court. We had a Rivera Court, and we had the murals, one room devoted to the Diego Rivera murals, which he painted, I believe in the 30s in the city, to celebrate the auto industry there. And so that was my favorite place to go to. At the time, they had benches, so you could sit. There was a water fountain there, and it was just a fantastic place to go. And then, of course, the collections, they had everything there, from the medieval art, prehistoric art, an extensive African collection, Egyptian collection, and the modern art collection was phenomenal, too. So it was just a great place to be, and it was a great place to get exposed to art as well.
And we can say that Toni grew up surrounded by art and culture.
Yeah, that's what I gravitated toward, when I was a kid. Anything to do with art and music. I love music and dance, all of the arts. And I went to a Catholic school, so usually when the focus was not on art, but we did have one day a week, we had an art class, and then they did expose us to, we would have some musicians from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra come and perform once in a while. So those are the things that really opened my heart, and spoke to me. And any opportunity, like if programs came along in school that we could get exposed to doing stuff, I definitely gravitated to doing that, and I would push my parents. Sometimes my mom would have to take me to the museum. She didn't know what was going on, but she definitely supported me and took me where I wanted to go.
Yeah, that's mom support and family support. And then the mistake is you moved to New York. So what did make you move to New York? Was it that you see Detroit as a small place for you and you were growing and you wanted to be in New York, or just you wanted to have more visibility?
I guess I hadn't really had strong focus when I was here in Detroit. I was still young and just out of school. So, and then I was at a crossroads because I did enjoy fashion as well. So I was, working a little bit in fashion. And in New York, you have everything. You have the fashion industry, you have, the art industry, you have everything. So there was an opportunity. I came one weekend to visit a friend for my birthday, and then I just decided, let's take a chance and see if we can make this work. So I decided to stay, and I looked for a job, and I got a job offer, and at the time I was decided to work in fashion. I was working at Bergdorf Goodman on 5th Avenue and 57th Street, which was, a great place for somebody coming from Detroit, to be right there in the heart of 5th Avenue, surrounded by so many great, art, fashion institutions. And then, just a few blocks away, the museums are there. So it was just a wonderful opportunity it was an opportunity, and I took it, and I'm glad I did.
How were you able to combine like visual art and fashion design? Are they related or were separated?
Well, I think there's a lure of fashion, for some young people. We're surrounded by fashion, and there's always that. I don't know. I guess the fantasy of designing clothes, but then. I kind of learned very early on the business of fashion, that fashion is not about, it's about the design. That's one aspect of it, but it is also a business.
Yes,
and I think it was that reality that it is a business, that I decided that I did not really want to work in that business, And so my heart was also, the fine arts also called me as well. So being in New York and going to museums, and I think at that time, and I have to backtrack a little bit because I had married young, my first marriage, and we went to Mexico, and I was exposed to some Mexican artists, and I think that's when I solidified my interest in fine arts to go with the fine out route. But I also liked fashion, and I felt that fashion would be good for business, just for a job in the fashion, either in sales, management, or whatever. So that's what I did. I did fashion for the business, for the money, to make a living. And then I did my fine art on the side. I used my job in fashion to support my career as a fine artist.
How was it like in New York in the gallery business? I mean, and shows and all the things. Was it like really hard to get access to galleries at the young artists?
It was. It had its challenges. The problem that I encountered was that. I took classes at the Art Students League, and then I started to ask questions, and nobody wanted to answer my questions. Like my instructor, how do you get into galleries? And that's the struggle for young artists is getting that information, because I was very green. But I had a teacher from my high school in Detroit who connected me with a woman, in Brooklyn, and her husband had been an artist. He had passed away, but she was very much connected with a whole group of artists, and it was these artists that I connected with that I got exposed to how the gallery scene worked, and I learned about the craft, the other side of being an artist, not just making the paintings, but how to stretch your work, how to work with different size if you had different challenges with your work, how to resolve them. I worked as an artist assistant with Ed Clark, and I had met, Tyrone Mitchell and a whole bunch of other artists. Some of them have passed away, but, they were very strong artists, and, hanging around those guys, I learned a lot about the business of art, and how the gallery scene worked, because no one else instructed me. When I left college, nobody talked about, they don't really tell you about that side of being an artist, how to get your work exposed. You need somebody to give you a shoe in. I think it's a little bit easier now. There's more open artist calls for artists, for young artists if they pay attention. But I don't know if their instructors are really, directing them to do those things,
Yeah, it's one thing to do the art, and another thing to have exposure and sell your work. It's a lot of young artists are facing difficulties with those things.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. And like I said, if it wasn't for that group of people, who kind of opened my eyes, that you need to have a resume, you need to have shows, and then when you first start, you have no shows.
Yeah,
your resume is blank until you start to fill it up.
But I think things are now changing with all these mentorship programs, all this internship, and this is a way of educating young artists, helping them to know where to go with their work. And then, Toni, you are an educator, and I know we have done programs together with City Without Wall Outreach, and I met you several times, and we did a lot of stuff. Can you tell us about the programs you did with Outreach and the work?
Well, I did the Outreach program with City Without Walls, and I agree with you that there are more internships and things like that help the young artists get exposure, like working with City Without Walls. Like students can sign up to that program, and then they work with a professional artist, and they can learn about that aspect of an artist's life. Especially when I worked with City Without Walls Outreach program, I really had the student help me with my work. It wasn't just about preparing for the exhibition. I exposed them to what I was doing, the things that I had to prepare for. So that was one program that was really good, and it has a lot of potential. I think now it has, the focus has changed a little bit because everybody's rushing and worrying about getting work for an exhibition. But I think if they allow time for the students, the original objective was to work alongside an artist to see how their life was like. If that could be more the focus, that was a good program.
And it's very interesting because it motivates the student and helps the student to be in a professional artist studio, see how the work is going on, and more they pay the artist and they pay the students.
Right, exactly.
Because it takes 3 months, and every month you will get a check.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's true. It's good because a lot of young people don't, that's one thing. How do you make money as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
That's one way, by working as an assistant, if the artist can afford it, or even an internship or a program like City Without Walls, can put money into the hands of a student.
And I think that will also help, the City of New York, to build up a very strong art scene, because there's a lot of galleries opening, and young people are interested in the art, and they have a lot of things going on. And Lynn Wood did a great job in the past. He retired, but he really contributed to that, and many also people like Gallery Atero and all those things. And so how do you see your work in 10 years in terms of art?
Well, there's a lot of artists coming to New York right now, and so the art scene is definitely growing. One of the things that I like the diversity, of the artists coming in. But the one thing I'm concerned about is that the artists who were there originally, they start to fade away from the spotlight, or they start to get tossed to the side. And I don't want to see that happen, because those people, the artists who were there before, helped maintain. They brought a lot to the city, because they kept things going before before things got to to the level that it is now. Programs like not programs, but like Gladys Grower had the first art gallery that was in Newark, so that would have been before City Without Walls, and artists like Bisa Washington and Russell Murray and a lot of others frequent their gallery, and they took got advantages from participating in that gallery, and they have professional careers now based on what happened with that one institution, that young budding institution. And Gladys was a mom, I think she had like 4 or 5 kids at the time, but she was still running an art gallery, and that says a lot for what women can do and what artists can do faced with various challenges. Right now, money is a big issue because more the focus is on, who has money to pay for this, that, and the other. But a lot of artists are still doing things in their own spaces. Bisa has a gallery in her, a portion of her house is a gallery, the Arlington Gallery, and that's a good thing because we need, as much diversity as possible. It's nice to see the big things in the museum. The Newark Museum still, is a good source and a good revenue. What the New York Arts Council is doing, under the new director, since Linwood retired, they are reaching out to artists. Gallery of Pharaoh is reaching out to artists. It would be nice if they had more programs for youth, but I guess that's coming because it is challenging to get those things going.
Yeah, but people like Clarice, Bisa Washington, Gary Grant, they will never disappear because they're everywhere. They're the spirits of the work.
Yes, they are. They are. And like artists like Willie Cole, everyone knows his name. But if it wasn't for those interim days when it was him and Jerry and Ujima Majid, Ujima, we don't talk about him as much, but those artists all were together and they created this work, which and they supported each other, and it was phenomenal stuff that they did.
Yeah, it's just like in a building. The foundation is never seen, but it is what holds everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you in Orange, and you have the Yema Gallery, and then you have the Valley Art District.
Yes. Well, I was.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Valley Art District in Orange, please?
Yeah, the Valley Arts District was started by a group called HANDS, which is a housing and neighborhood development group. So they are developers. But they created this community in the valley section of Orange. So that is like a section that sort of has a lot of factories, but it also has a lot of families too. So I rented a space from them, as a way of sort of creating a home base for my organization, because my organization's Arts Etc. Arts Etc. had really just the programs to support women artists, Catfish Friday, Women's Art Collective, which is a support group for women artists where women can come together and bring their works in progress and show their work and discuss it with other artists to see if they have any challenges or they want to just see if something is working and the idea is working. It was a good way, I felt, was a need to bring women together so that they can talk about their work. And then the Indigenous Artists Initiative, which you also participated in, which I started to support traditional art forms because I felt that with, the way things are going with the industry and globalization, a lot of indigenous art practices that people did traditionally would start to get commodified and copied, in China, which is made cheaper, and then begin to dissipate the original practices of people because they can't sell their stuff because you make something one way and it's going to cost $200, you get the made in China version and it's only going to cost $25. So, what do people do? They go with the cheaper option, and as opposed to thinking about, oh, wow, this is an original and this has more value, and, I'm also connected with the artist. So I had those two things going on. When I heard about the Valley Arts District and I saw opportunity to get the space, I said, this will expand what we can do, because we can have a location where everyone can meet, and then we can turn it into a gallery and we can display people's work as well. So that's why I went to the Valley Arts, and at the time, another artist was there. Terry Bodie had his artist. He had an art studio and gallery, and then Arts Unbound, which is a art gallery. It's an art organization that also has an art gallery, and they support the work of seniors and disabled artists. So the little section that I sort of niched myself into was, it was 3 art galleries together, and we sort of, along with the other artists who were moving into the area, sort of created a little gallery row. And then also Valley Arts, Hands created Valley Arts, and Valley Arts also had exhibition space, and then provided opportunities for artists to display work and, to receive support for different projects. Like they did a sculpture garden, they did site-specific project, and artists would get a stipend, to help them create the work and then display the work as well.
Yeah, because you show international artists. I had a show with another Nigerian artist.
Yeah.
A two-person show there, I think, 2 years ago.
Yes, and did you do the site-specific project, too, that they did with Terry Bodie and Lorena LaGrassa?
No, I didn't get a chance to do that one.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of artists did the site-specific, which they took one of the factory buildings and then turned it into an exhibition space. And, artists displayed their work there, which was, really, exciting to take, to do some installations, site-specific installations.
Yeah, you seem to be like building up there like an art community or an art district, because you have 3 galleries, and I think there's buildings that are erected for artists as well.
Yes. There are studios, artists can rent studios, and also there is another gallery. It's called the Firehouse Gallery, which is also run by Valley Arts. So there are 3 galleries now in the area, in the Valley Arts area, and they are building condos. And on the corner where we are, I'm on Freeman Street, and Freeman and Jefferson, now there is a residence for artists. It's like live-work spaces. And, it's affordable, and it's, available for artists. Of course, you have to apply, and, it's all that process. But it's there, and it's, it's growing, because artists are living in the building, in the apartment buildings. I believe there are 8 apartments. And, artists are there living and doing their work. So. Yeah,
and the population seems to be supporting, because there are, there are some sales here and there sometimes, right?
Yes. Well, you got to invite the public in sometimes, because what happens is a little bit of gentrification, where the outsiders come in and start to do things, and sometimes they don't always do things in consideration to the people that are already there. And I know that when Lorena was running Valley Arts, she did some communal things. Also, they've had different directors. So when they do different things, like little, there was like Lorena had something called a yard sale, and so artists and different community people would come together and have like sort of like a flea market kind of thing, and the community would be invited in, and then artists would be paid to do some art activities with the kids. So it's a way to make people aware of that you are there and what you are doing, and giving back to the community, and including the community and giving back to them. So there were things like that. There was Hat City Street Festivals, because there is in the area there's 3 or 4 galleries. There's also a restaurant, Hat City restaurant, and then there's also Luna Stage, which is a theater that is also in the area too. So there's different things that people can go to, and then when the directors are able to do community things that can bring in the community to make them more aware of what you're doing, that also helps, because then it doesn't look like the neighborhood's being gentrified and things are created and, nobody's telling the community what's going on, So.
Yeah, I think when we talk about gentrification, people think about like New York, Harlem, Brooklyn,
Harlem, right?
Yeah,
and even Jersey City, where you are.
Yeah, even Jersey City, Newark are just facing the same problems. I think. Do you think art is the best way to fight against it and bring like more artists? What do you think is the way to fight against that?
Well, I think when Newark just there was a mural project done on Highway 21, which was a good way to bring the community in, or they've created art all along the walls of this on this highway, public highway, and people have something to look at. It changes the neighborhood from what it was before. Instead of looking at dry brick walls, now you have this art on the walls. And then the community, I hope the community was involved in what went on the walls, but if they, the artists were supposed to be reflective of what was happening in the community, and I think that the artists did do that, but it does bring something to the community. I think, there needs to be more interaction between the artists and the community. And I'm not sure the best way to do it, but I do know that summer programs for youth, summer art programs for youth is one way to do that. And especially if it comes through the city, that makes it even better because it can be done in public parks, and artists would get paid, to do a class or, do maybe spend a couple of weeks, doing a class for the community, for the kids in the community. Because that's the best way to reach the community is through the children, and programs with seniors.
Okay. Toni, we know that you're a traveler, you live in Mexico, and you've been to that shows in Cuba. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in Cuba with the Afro-Cuban art and then, your connection with them?
Well, I happened to go to one of the Biennales in 2009 with Ben Jones. Artist Ben Jones coordinated this trip for us, and it was really phenomenal because I got to meet a lot of artists, got to see art from all over the world at the Biennale, and it was just a fantastic experience because it was just all this really great art on display. I made connections with some artists too, and I maintained those connections. Thank goodness through email we were able to connect. Now it's a little bit easier to communicate, but because I'm an educator, I also had the opportunity to travel back and forth, to Cuba by applying for an educator's visa. And I was able to build relationships with a few artists there. And I coordinated a couple of cultural exchange exhibitions with artists from here and from there. I spent some time in Havana and working with a few artists and a few couple exhibition spaces, and then also in Santiago de Cuba, another exhibition space there. That was my last trip, was to Santiago de Cuba, and we were there during the they have a Festival de Caribe, Caribbean Festival, every year at the end of June into July, and it was really a phenomenal event. Even though we got there towards the end, we got to see, how people prepare for Carnival, and all the focus on culture and art, a lot of focus on culture. And I think that's one of the strengths about the Cuban people is that, because they're not inundated with the stuff that we are, they are really, they gravitate towards the arts. They do support the visual artists. Visual artists are almost like rock stars. They're, especially the well-known ones. People come out, they want to see their work. I've seen little kids all excited to meet an artist. and get their signature, which you would not see that here, and when we've done exhibitions, the people come out and they want to know who you are. They ask you about your work, So that embrace of the arts is really something that, was like blew our minds because we don't see that here. If you tell somebody about an exhibit, they'll be like, well, what is that and how much does it cost?
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, wow, I would love to see your work.
Well, does it mean that the Cuban population have a very long, strong art education?
I believe so. Like I said, their schools and the kids, they don't have the technology, they're not inundated with things. So, even though they're using cell phones and stuff, maybe, everybody doesn't have a tablet or a computer. So they are more interested in the arts. They listen to the poetry. They are, great musicians. And then, too, their training is different. They do have a classical training, and then they develop. And I also see, where there are collectives, where the artists work together. So they may be a room, maybe 15 by 15, but 3 or 4 artists are sharing the space. Artists don't need a whole giant space, 15 square feet by 15 square feet. And, 2 or 3 artists are sharing, 3 or 4 artists are sharing this space because, everybody respects each other and, they just make it work, And what they produce is also quite phenomenal, the way artists work, which I'm sure maybe in your country, in Senegal, the artists that don't have lots of money, sort of work more communal, and produce things, and then the way that their training is a lot different too, because the training more emphasis is on developing the craft, the skill, making sure you have a good eye and stuff. Where here, artists, we sort of, it's more about the quick the sale and the celebrity and the fame, You're here today, but are you going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah, that's the question, And then you also, I think, live to Mexico. Can we talk a little bit about the experience you had in Mexico?
And where?
Mexico. Do you?
Oh, Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was young, I was like 18, 19 years old when I was there, but I didn't really, and this is the thing when you have these life-changing experiences and then you don't know the impact that it will have on your life until much years later, but, I met some pretty phenomenal artists, and at the time some artists were expatriates, too, because they had left the country because, maybe they were communists and they had been, met with some political situations here. So they went to Mexico. But, the murals, I think, was what really caught my eye. I didn't know too much about Frida and Diego, their relationship. Of course, I knew about Diego Rivera, but I didn't know about Frida, so I wasn't really looking for Frida's work. But I was, murals by Cicadas and Rivera and Orozco, those were everywhere. And it was just exciting to see. And then also, the crafts, the artesanias, the marketplaces, the mercados, they were really nice to see the work that the artists were producing, at that time, which they are still doing, but, it was all new to me. So I was really, quite blown away by what I saw.
So let's talk about a little bit about the work of Afro-Cuban artists.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think how do you see their work? Do they tell their experience, or do they bring to other African culture to create their own works?
You have to, in Cuba, it's all infused in the culture, and it's infused in their education in some way, and I don't know if it's talked about at home, but I know that it comes out in symbolisms in their work. And that's what's really kind of phenomenal, that even if you can't reference it, they can reference their Afro-Cuban connection. And their work is always about, a lot of their work is about their identity and their identity is always connected with their African heritage, and like I said, it's more symbolic. So they will, point to certain symbolisms that you see in their work. There was one mural that a group of artists painted. I believe it was over 7 to 14 days on the side of a preschool in Santiago de Cuba, and I loved the way the mural went. I don't know how many, at least 4 stories up, and it referenced some art history. They had this great wave by Hokusai, who's a Japanese printmaker, sort of 1500s. Anyway, they referenced his work, and it was like this great wave that it was there in the painting, in the mural, and a bunch of other things. And then at the bottom they had an orisha, and the orisha was there for protection. They put it in for protection, and it was just, like those little symbolisms, that you see in the work, in everybody's work. And like I said, even if somebody's work looks completely Eurocentric or surreal or something, there will always be something in there that references their Afro-Cuban heritage. And in Santiago, because they're so close to, to Jamaica and they're right there on that west side of the Caribbean. They talk about it a lot, and the festivals, everything is referenced to that African heritage. Even the ones in Havana, throughout the country, they do reference it. Especially their connection with Nigeria, the Yoruba. A lot of people still practice, that, or if they don't practice it, they are aware of it, and they include it in their work. I mean, I saw more references to the Yoruba than anything else. I mean, I don't claim to be an expert in this area, but I did see more, people talk, showing it, and also the dance too, and their dances, that reference to where that music comes from, even the salsa, that the roots are definitely African, the beat, dun, dun, dun. That the beat it's coming from the African tradition, and so it's there, and everybody, they know it. They know where the reference is, and they don't try to mask it or hide it. They are proud to acknowledge it, which is good too.
Yeah, it is good because I have some friends from Africa went to the Havana Biennial, and which is interesting because I think the Biennial helps them to be connected more with the African diaspora, and that will help us keep the culture alive. Because I don't think Cubans travel a lot, because when I was in Africa, I didn't see a lot of Cubans, and it's amazing that they keep the culture alive.
Yeah, they do keep that alive, and they make. And the thing is, it's intergenerational. When you go to a festival, or they have neighborhood dances, the Rumbas. You'll see young, old, little kids, babies. Everybody knows this music and are dancing to this music, and they know. And it's hundreds of people coming together to enjoy this music. Now, some artists do try to maintain. I met some artists who try to make sure that so that people know that it's African roots, not just Latino or Caribbean. They will dress in African attire, wear the dashikis and stuff, to make sure that that they understand the source, because there are people who are feeling that maybe it's getting lost, because you do have, new music like the reggaeton and all that, being introduced, that's very popular over there now. So, some people different artists try to make sure that they infuse that these roots are African, that it's part of their culture, and that they should recognize it and celebrate it too.
Isn't culture interesting?
Excuse me?
Isn't the culture interesting? Culture is a very interesting thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, culture is everything because it builds identity.
Yeah.
Right now, in America, a lot of people look to us because of what we accomplished before, and even the rap music, too. Now, as we move forward, I don't know, if we will still be a cultural leader. We have been a cultural leader and a strong influence on other cultures, but that may be shifting. I don't know, because our art scene and what's happening especially in the African American, community, what we're doing is, it's very different now because it's infused with a lot of other things, So I don't know if we will still be a leader, but I know that we have been at what African Americans have done in the past have been a strong influence around the world,
Yeah.
Strong influence around the world.
And Toni, I would like to ask another personal question because we know this week is very tough for African Americans, like in terms of violence and all those things. What role can you think that art can play to teach people to be more about like protective, to be more about like to teach people how to fight against this violence, or to keep the kids like off the street?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the arts is the way to do it, and it's unfortunate that people don't think creatively, especially our leaders, the people that we look to. But I think, too, I like to reference Nina Simone, and one of the things that she said was, she likes to reflect the time and the situations that we live in, and how can you be an artist and not reflect the times? And I think that that's a difficult call because a lot of artists want to make money, and if you reference the times, there's a lot of things going on that are not pretty,
Yeah.
But there's no, how can you continue to exist if you don't, speak on that or let that be part of your work? Not everybody has the same focus, but I know some artists are concerned with police violence.
There's some voices.
Okay. Some artists are concerned with police violence, and I know, like Gladys Growler, she's like a great example. She is in her, mid-90s, and she has a series that, about the people that have been murdered by the police, and, it's a great reference, and it's great that she's bringing that to the attention of others because we tend to forget about it. Or even, through, not just through the visual arts, but through the music, and I know it's hard through music because you don't get your music played if it's got too much messages or anything in it, but, that doesn't mean that you can't do it underground. The artists underground who, can't speak on these issues, and also do documentaries and movies, too. There's a lot of ways that artists can speak on these things, and also to bring, to put I guess we have to put ourselves out. I mean, and I think the mayor of Newark had a good idea where he wanted to ask artists to go into these, sort of hot communities because there would be a lot of vacant buildings and stuff, and, maybe take them on and, renovate the properties or do things with them. The problem was that, the idea was good, the concept is good, it's just that how do you work it out? Because artists, we're not rich, we don't have bags of money. We have to live and feed our families and feed ourselves and pay bills, just like everybody else. But, if it could have worked out where maybe, give people a building and, maybe make it rent-free or tax-free or something, artists could do that. But there are, the artists like Gallery of Pharaoh is in the community, it's downtown, and I think, it is visible. So there are small, ways that, little enclaves that people can do things,
Yeah,
but it's a challenge, and it's something artists need to discuss and figure out how to do more.
Yeah, I think artists, they must bring a solution to this. Like, they have grants or whatever they have to be in underprivileged community and try to pass on the skill to the kids and get them involved in workshops or mentorship programs, because when you are underprivileged, it's really crazy because you have like negative and credit scores, and you will also try to survive,
That's true. I mean, looking at myself, we had the community that I lived, my parents didn't have money, and I would never have been able to take any art or music classes if they had to pay for them. But there were some community programs that were brought to our community that were free, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of funding for these kinds of things, but if there were fundings, that's one way, a free music program or a free art program, that is offered to the community is a good way to get kids exposed and to give them a different option, or just to open their eyes and enrich their lifestyle,
Yeah, because the art might be an alternative, like understanding through art. Bring like kids, adults, and everybody together, because art is something that is the only thing that can right now. One thing that happens like this is the only thing that can unite everybody.
Right, exactly.
Because in the presence of art, people will forget their problems and troubles.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, it expands people's creativity too, because a lot of times, you don't get to exercise. Where do you exercise creativity? Like other things, exercise your understanding of math, maybe through spending and purchasing. But, through looking at the arts, it's a way that you can find ways to impact your life and your community, by being exposed to artists and the arts, because artists think differently. They don't think the same way as other people do.
Yeah. And that can prevent violence from happening, because nobody gains anything in violence, and violence is not the remedy of social problems.
No, it's not the remedy.
It's not the remedy. Violence is not the remedy. We should find more remedy. We should find another remedy than killing each other. It's not like a good thing. And in communities like this, where people are supposed to live together.
Exactly, that's true.
Yeah.
And the arts is a good way to bring people together. And that's one of the things that blew me away about being in Havana and Cuba. Most of the people, the way the media reflects these countries, you think everybody is like, beige, light skin. But when you're there and you see so many people, so many different shades of these people, the Cuban people, and then they all come together, hundreds of people, and everybody's dancing and listening to this music, and there's no violence. Nobody's mad about somebody pushing somebody or somebody step on somebody's toes while they're dancing. They're just there to enjoy the music and have a good time.
Because art is communication. If you don't need to communicate with people, and if you love it, you're communicating with the artist. If you're in a concert, you're communicating with everybody in there, because you clap together, you dance together. And there's an African proverb that says there is no misunderstanding, but just lack of communication.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's that people don't communicate. There's always the fear of the other, and you see that on the street. You see like faces with an ask question, like how people look at you. It's not hatred, but it's fear.
Right, it is fear.
And fear will give you like an unconscious strength, and whenever you have that unconscious strength, you're out of control.
Right.
People have to learn to trust each other and to love each other. Yeah.
They have to stop blaming each other too.
Yeah.
That's what people are good at here, is blaming each other for their situations. Oh, I don't have a job because this person is here. No, that's not the reason. There's more to it than just that.
Yeah. It's all about communication, and let's put our mind, but there's no misunderstanding, but just lack of communication, and we gotta let communication prevail, and not cut the lines of communication when there's a problem.
Yes, that's true. I agree.
Yeah. And our guest on Radio Pikine Diaspora is Toni Thomas, artist educator from Orange. And let me see if Sandy's on the line. San, hello?
Hey, Brother Ibou, thank you for the presentation. And we've been listening to Lionel for a while, and we know the kind of job she's doing. And we really appreciate like what she just said. That's why we all were listening, very carefully, because she's an educator, and she got like when you hear her talking, she's a very wise woman, because she really spoke about like what's happening now and the problems that can be solved through art. And I heard her said that our leaders are not creative compared to artists. The creativity there is in the artists, are not in our leaders. That's why we having a lot of issues right now. And I hope we're gonna have her again, in this program, for more developments about her art and what's happening in our community.
Okay, Toni, we're coming to the end of our show. And your last words on your project, your future projects, and what you do up to.
Well, I do need to correct you on one thing. I'm from Newark. I live in Newark.
So you live in Newark, okay.
I live in Newark, so I'm in Newark and Orange, New Jersey.
No, you just say, okay, you're in Newark and Orange. You're in Newark and the gallery is in Orange.
It's in Orange, yeah. But, I specifically wanted my organization to be in Newark to give it, a positive things are happening in Newark, The Women's Art Collection Women's Art Collective is in Newark. Catfish Friday originated here in Newark, and Arts Etc., the organization, and Yama Gallery all originated in Newark.
Yes, I know Catfish, because the first time I came to your show, I was like, what? You only show women? I want to show my art. You have to show me my art. And I gave you half time, and you finally show my art.
Yes. And that was a really good show, too. So we have the NOW, artsetcnow.org, and all our information is on our website. And to contact me, the information is on the website. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to speaking to you again about how we can do more with the arts in terms of helping to combat some of these problems that are in our communities.
Yes.